We're all traveling around Australia, and the golden rule is you never buy a property when you are on holiday.
True story.
We're going to talk about that. Stay tuned.
We've all done it, right? We've been in Queensland or we've been in some other part of the country and thought, I could really see myself moving here. You know what? We're going to buy a holiday house. We've all done it, haven't we? You're kicking back, you're in holiday mode, and you've got a drink in your hand and you're thinking, how good's this life? How good's this life? And the reality is, it is becoming a reality for so many people now. Regional New South Wales and regional parts of our country have exploded, haven't they, Mark?
Out of control.
Yep, out of control. Actually, just would have been about a week ago now, we were speaking to some lovely agents up in Alice Springs who were just saying that market's out of control. We've got a personal friend who's in real estate in regional New South Wales, out of control. We're speaking with agents all the time right across the country. And, people are buying these little hobby farms and holiday houses. Crazy, isn't it?
It's against everything that I've always learned.
Yeah. What's that? Tell us.
You know what? I've always preached don't buy Queensland because you're not going to get your capital growth. You're going to get your rent. It's very attractive. The rent is like the sugar hit, and that's really, really attractive. And there's not capital growth. That's really, really been the ethos of what I've always said to people. It's really changed through COVID, though. COVID's really changed the whole flavour. I want to say g'day to a couple of people. John, it
will end in tears. I love that. What a classic.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Chris, g'day to you as well. No, they are not. They are work-life balance, which is investment. Yeah, great point. Okay, so we're going to talk about more of this sort of stuff, and thanks everyone for your opinions. Love to hear what everyone's thinking about live. The work-life balance thing is really interesting because I think that whenever one thinks investment, they think of cash in bank, dollars made. And I think what Chris has brought up is, one of the very, very valid things. It's an investment in yourself, in your soul, feeding your soul. Everyone's soul is different. And it doesn't necessarily mean make a bucket load of money. Sure, your money can be put better in a stock of a Tesla stock or something, but I think you're right. It does feed the soul. Look, as real estate agents, we're facilitators. We're not judging. We just make shit happen. And when people ask us our opinions, it's one of those things where we don't understand what's going on in your head.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I think, what we want to ascertain tonight is it a good investment? And it doesn't always have to come down to dollars and cents. An investment could be an investment in your mental health. A lot of people, and I actually truly believe that a lot of the reasons why people are shifting around our country at the moment is purely because of mental health. Because, if it comes down to dollars and cents, we don't yet know if it's a great investment if you're selling up in one of these, big out of one of these big suburbs in the eastern suburbs or the northern beaches or wherever it may be, and you're going to be buying in Tamworth. We don't yet know, right? Because the real estate, we're all going through this real estate wave at the moment. But is it really dollars and cents, Mark? A lot of people are saying, you know what? I'm kind of done with this stressful life here of living in the city. I'm going to get out of here, go and live a bit of a quieter life, be on a bit of acreage, let the kids run around, and just live a more peaceful, serene life. I think that's what a lot of this is about as well.
Yeah, and look, I think and also this money injection or this purchase doesn't necessarily mean a shift in your whole life. You can just buy something there and rent it out. But, doesn't mean if you're on a holiday and you buy something, you're moving the whole family there and it's all over in Sydney.
Yeah.
But I think that, a lot of people, look, been an agent for 25, 30 years. A lot of people have come to me over that time. The biggest struggle that I have with this purchase that people are making is I know, and look, don't get me wrong, I'm always going to spruik Sydney. Like, you're talking to a Sydney real estate agent.
Yeah, that's right.
We're always, like it or not, that's in our DNA. We are blindsided by Sydney property. But I think at the end of the day, what I've always said to people, and I still think it rings true, COVID or not COVID, is I don't know if COVID is such a short-term event. It feels like we're in shit deep, knee deep in COVID. Yeah. And I just don't know if it's going to be something, Lise, that's going to be short-lived.
No, this is it.
Is this going to be our life for the next 10, 20, 30 years?
This is life. I mean, this is obviously our opinion, right? And we're open to what you guys think, but this is truly life now. I mean, what they say that it takes, I think it's, 3 months to create a habit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but, it takes a certain period of time to create a habit. Now, we've all gotten into the habit now of traveling around our country. We've all gotten to the habit now of going to Byron Bay or going up to the Hunter Valley. Everyone's found their groove. Yes, sure, we're missing international travel, but it's not so bad traveling around Australia. And we certainly know people, friends, like within our own circle, Mark, that are buying properties all over New South Wales and, calling them holiday homes. But what's quite interesting, actually, is what Airbnb have just done. So if we're talking about holiday homes and are they great investments or not, I think a lot of people buy holiday homes not to do long-term rentals. They buy holiday homes and think, well, we can Airbnb it out, because then we can still use it when we want. We can have those block-out dates and we can Airbnb it and get great money. But Airbnb has just put in some pretty full-on measures, haven't they? They've put a 180-day cap on how you're allowed to rent these properties out. So what was happening was Byron Bay, let's use Byron Bay as an example. Airbnb, everyone was Airbnb-ing their properties in Byron Bay, and all the locals were saying it's ridiculous.
65 days a year, making a fortune.
Making an absolute fortune. But the locals that were living in these areas were saying, we don't want holiday makers living next door to us 365 days a year.
And not only that, it made it a holiday community. And they're like, this is not the community here. We are we're third generation, second generation. So it actually started pushing out the locals and feeding the tourists and feeding the investors that wanted the Airbnb. So the beauty of that, a lot of the times we go to different places in the world, different places in our country, is for that culture or for that. Yeah. Now, suddenly when it's full of tourists, you lose all of that. Do you know what I mean?
Not only that, think about how people live, guys, when they're on a holiday. When you've got a long-term lease on a property, 6 or 12 months, people are moving in and they're calling it their home. It is their home. When people are holiday making and they're Airbnb property and coming in and just renting it for 2 nights, 2 weeks, whatever it might be, there's drinking, there's partying, there's friends over, right? Who wants to be living next door to that?
Yeah.
So I think Airbnb have come along and said, that's it. There's a 180-day cap on how long you're actually able to rent out a property for.
Well, that's been imposed onto Airbnb by the council.
That's right. Yeah. And I don't know if that's Australia-wide. I think this is only quite new information. Yeah. We will find some information on that, actually, and we'll pop a link in here. Because we've actually got a family friend who's got a beautiful property in Byron Bay. She's had it for years, and she's just put in a pool, and, of course, Byron Bay has gone absolutely nuts with holiday makers. She's put a pool in. She spent an absolute fortune. I think she was making something to the tune of about 10 grand a week. And all of a sudden, Airbnb have come along and smacked this, almost like an embargo on, how long people are able to rent it out for. Council, sorry. Yeah.
So basically,
okay, I apologise.
So basically, this means, and you know what's really, well, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing either. But what's actually scary is if someone like that geared themselves. So if she went and bought a second property, if she went and bought a third property, thinking, how good is this rent? How good is this business? How good is this is my life now? And suddenly she's peeled back to those 180 days. That completely changes that business model.
Absolutely.
You know, so she could have debt, her bum hanging out with debt, and now that business model's changed. It's bloody scary stuff.
Yeah.
So where are we going with this? Holiday properties. When you used to have an investment property, you bought it for 365 days a week rent. You didn't really buy it to live in for lifestyle. You just bought this thing to make money. So I think that if you're buying a property to make money, I think the adage and the sustainability and the old adage of why you would buy in Sydney, I think that still sticks. A major city, you know, Sydney is beautiful, not because of COVID or not COVID. Sydney is beautiful. Fundamentally, it's surrounded by water. It's climatically, out of all the states, it's the best. Not too hot, not too cold, doesn't flood, this, that. Education, very good. Medical system, excellent. So when you're investing in this sort of infrastructure and this sort of climate and this sort of place, that's not getting burnt or buried or taken away, no matter how many governments hit us. That's there. That's fundamental. That's a good place. Something that I think everyone is missing about this whole holiday thing, that everyone is missing, is that when there is unlimited land or unlimited real estate, you're not that special anymore. The thing I like about our planning in Sydney is it's very hard. I can't just go build a unit block anywhere.
No, that's right.
And that makes it so, okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about these glasses, right? If these are the only glasses in Australia and they are sought after by everybody, they are, you know, like a diamond, they're going to be sought after. Suddenly, if I'm making a million of these, they're not worth anything. So I think you've got to watch this, guys. When you're looking at property and when you're looking at holiday properties and purchasing out of the area, I think a beautiful thing about Sydney is it can't be replicated easy. Planning controls are tight. People are looking for that and are seeking that, and that pushes the price up for Sydney property.
Yeah, agreed.
And this whole rural property lease, I don't believe that. I think it's not that tight with planning. It's not that. There's acreages everywhere.
There are. I agree.
They're sexy and sought after and beautiful through COVID, but every time it doesn't.
Not only that, I think, you know, people are overpaying for a lot of these properties. So, you know, everyone all of a sudden went and swooped to Byron Bay. You know, when we were all sort of, you know, in realised that we couldn't travel overseas, you know, all of a sudden Byron Bay, I was laughing with you about it, Mark, and saying Byron Bay's almost become the new Aspen of New South Wales, right? Everyone's like, I'm going to Byron. Everyone's like, wow, you're going to Byron Bay. You know, it almost became the new Aspen. But those property prices just went through the roof in terms of people going up there and even buying holiday homes. But if you start to look around the outskirts of some of those areas, I think that's where you actually find the true magic. I really do. You know, I think that is where the true magic is found. I mean, we know someone who's recently bought in Mullumbimby. That's not an area that ever in a million years we would think to go buy in. This particular person picked up a holiday home up there for quite cheap. About 6 months ago now, they paid about $850,000 for a 3-bedroom home, and they rent it out. They're not using it as a holiday home anymore. They're renting that property out long term for $1,250 a week.
And it's worth 1.2.
That is, and it's now worth $1.2 million in the last 6 months. It is absolutely bananas. It's bananas.
I'm calling it bullshit.
Why?
I don't like it.
Which part of it?
All of it.
Okay. Do you want to reiterate?
I still believe the investment ethos of buying under your nose, where you can get something fixed straight away because you know the plumbers, you know the fishing because it's only down the road, where you know the rents. If you're going to spend, okay, say, you know, the average home is $1 million or 200 in Sydney, right? I think it's 1.5. Say you're going to buy an investment for 500-600. Now that's the fortunate few. You're talking maybe 5 or 10% of Australians that have an investment property. They got one investment property. And if you want to really get it right, if you want to nail that shit and you want to be a professor around it, make sure it's under your nose.
Yeah, but hang on. You're talking about investment.
Money.
We're
Money,
talking
money,
about
money,
holiday
money.
houses.
I'm talking about money.
So, you know,
I'm saying
it
if I'm-
depends. It depends. It's a horses for courses, Mark. Different people for different things.
Okay.
Some people are looking at it from a money perspective, and I understand that. Some people are saying, I want a holiday house. We're not going to be traveling for some time now. I want to go and buy something that's maybe 2 or 3 hours drive out of Sydney. Is that going to be a good investment? I disagree. I actually say yes, it is. Because investment money-wise, who only knows, right? We're too early days into this whole new COVID life.
I know.
But health-wise, I think it's an awesome investment. Awesome investment.
Okay. So if you're fine by, so you got your family home,
Yep.
paying it off.
Yep.
You're going to buy investment property, put all your eggs in another basket, a second basket. Don't you want to be sure that this thing's going to cook? Don't you want to be sure that this thing's going to be able to rent? I'm going to be able to fix stuff easily because Uncle Johnny's a plumber. He can go there and fix it. If I have to change my real estate because they're a shit real estate agent,
But what are you suggesting then?
I'm saying if you want to make money in property, buy under your nose. Stick to what you know. I'm saying if you want to have fun and feed your soul, go for it. That's two separate things.
So what are you suggesting then in terms of holiday homes? Are you saying that investment-wise, buy what's under your nose? Yeah. Holiday-wise, just go rent something. Just go Airbnb something a few times a year.
And you know what? Go and stay and live in a different country town every year for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Rent it, stay there, enjoy it, and do that for 20 years and see all of Australia. Feed your soul. I get feeding your soul. Do a whole bunch of long weekends as well.
Yeah.
Feed your soul, but don't get that money making thing mixed up with that soul fulfilling thing. It's two different things.
That's a good point.
It's two different things, and I don't think you've got, like, you're talking people that are buying a second property. For example, I don't think you can stuff it up. I think it's only 5% of Australians, if that. You've got to get this. You've got to get it right. You've got to go with the sure winner. You can't.
Yeah.
You got to back that horse. You ain't gonna have any money left for the next purchase or the one after that if you don't get that one right. I think it's really careful.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, guys, try before you buy as well. And I'm sure people are silly enough to go do that. But again, like if we just go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, you're sitting in an awesome place, let's call it Noosa, and you're like, how good is this? Like, look how cheap these properties are up here in Noosa. I can be living on the beach, $800,000. I've got this great property. La, 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 la. Next minute, you've gone and bought something. I say you've got to try before you buy. Find out, first of all, whether or not these areas are flood prone. I think that's a big thing. Find out whether or not you can insure the property. That's another massive thing. Fire, all those. Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. So just make sure that you're doing your due diligence on these areas, that it's not going to be a knee-jerk reaction. We actually do deal with a lot of agents right around the country, particularly regional New South Wales. Yes. Ask us. We're very happy to put you in touch with some of these agents. I helped a client, Mark, by just out of Byron Bay. The name slipped my mind at the moment, but it'll come back to me. I helped her buy in an area that was really foreign to myself and also to herself. I put something out onto my Facebook. Within 5 minutes, we had an agent that was able to assist. So, please do reach out to us if you are looking at buying something as a holiday house or an investment.
And we're not looking for a drink or a thoroughfare in LA.
No,
we're just happy to
not at all. We don't get a referral to that.
All the time.
We are doing it all the time.
Yeah. We got the contact.
Yeah. What's Stuart looking for? You're looking for a 3-bedroom in the Chrome area with a double garage for not more than $800 to $900 a week. Can you help? Yes, we can. We actually do run a very, very large property management portfolio. We manage over 1,500 properties, Stuart. So easiest way is just jump onto our website. But if you want to just private message us through with your details, we'll get someone from our rentals department to get in touch with you.
David says not everyone has the luxury to choose the lifestyle they want.
True. This is true, David. You're right. Look, and we are one of those people, right? We run a big business, and it's not that easy for us. We were having this conversation, actually, funny you should say that, the other day with a friend of ours who said, you know what, when everything reopens, we're going to live in London. And I said, really? You're going to go just like that, move overseas, pick up the kids, move your business? He's in the finance market, so it's a little bit easier for him.
Yep.
He deals with the UK and the US. David, we're in a very similar situation. We run a business. If Mark and I said tomorrow, you know what, we're going to go live in Armadale, it's pretty much impossible for us to do that. So, it is hard. And I think,
You can live in Armadale.
no, I don't want to live in Armadale. I don't mind Armadale, but I don't want to go live in Armadale. Do you? Yeah, I don't know. But look,
It's a good point. It's a good point. Look, you know what? It's David, that's a big balance question. That's a big balance one. It's
Yeah.
hard, but we are real estate agents. We are here talking about buying a property out of Sydney. Because, for instance, as an example, we are in the northern beaches of Sydney.
yeah,
We are hearing it thick and fast that the clients are going chung, 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 chung. They're physically moving their families, or they're buying something. They're staying there and buying something with their money. And they're coming to us saying, what do you reckon? So we did this segment on our experience and what we reckon. And I think in summary, to sign off and to talk about that, Lise,
yeah.
how would you summarise that?
Look, I think, again, I come back to what I was talking about right at the beginning of the show. Investment, I think we can define that in different ways. If we're talking about financial investment, really do your homework. Really do your homework. Because the last thing you want to do is go and buy a little hobby farm in Scone in New South Wales for, I don't know, let's call it $1.5 million, only to find out that it's a flood-prone area. Or it's just really over your head and, you didn't do your research. So make sure you do your research. But number two, is it a mental investment? Is that why people are moving out of the city? And if that's the case, my God, go for it, but yeah.
Do you know the best advice I can give?
Yes.
What are the on costs? And you just made me think about it.
Yeah.
What are the on costs? If you are going to be buying something as an investment only, to make money only, where are you going to make what's been proven over a long period, not just through COVID, last 3 months, last year, the last 30, 40, 50 years? What's done very well with rentals have always been higher. Rental returns have always been higher in other parts of Australia, regional Sydney, Queensland, regional Queensland rents have been higher, but the capital growth has not been there. How much the value has not gone up. Let me give you a quick number. Sydney cap yield will be 5%. So how much comes in per year over the price of what it's worth, 5% return, or 5%. But the capital growth has been 11 or 10 or 11%. So about 15% a year. Whereas when you went to parts of Queensland, the return was like 7 or 8% rent. But get capital growth over a 10-year period for a lot of my clients, long-term, zero. So they went, this is great. I'm getting all of this rent. 10 years later, it was worth the same as what they bought it for. That's number one. If you are buying only to make money, stick to Sydney. My opinion.
Well, Mark,
it's an opinion.
It is an opinion.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, number two is if you are buying to feed your soul and enrich your soul, be really careful of this thing. And I mean real careful. After you've purchased what you've purchased, what's it going to be worth in 10 years? You're not going to be getting a rent on it all the time if you're going to be living in it part of the time. What's the thing going to cost you every year? Are you buying tractors? Are you having to insure the property? Are you going to the hardware every time you go to visit the place?
Well, hang on, you've got to furnish it. Someone's got to mow those lawns on that farm because you don't want to be leaving it for 8 weeks, or if you're only going up there on school holidays and things like that, someone's got to look after it. Does it need a caretaker? Does it need cows? Yep. What does it need? Do the kids want horses to ride?
It's like a boat. With a boat,
I think it's a never-ending. I personally think it's a never-ending money pit. That's what I personally
and
think.
it is. So make sure your soul's really, really hungry to be really empty to be filled. If that's what you want, acreage and stuff like that, on a holiday home, because these things are gonna suck you. They're like a boat. So the boat's great. The best days when you buy it, and the best days when you sell it.
Yeah.
So with boats,
the best boat's always someone else's.
Someone else's. Because with the boats, shit, I didn't realise how much it was going to cost to run.
Yeah.
And shit, I didn't realise how much in value it eroded. And these holiday places can be the same. I may be wrong, but I'm talking very broadly. If you're going to stick with an investment, stick with what's under your nose and what you know. And if you're going to buy a holiday property, be careful.
It's safe. We're talking about a lot of money now. I think, with a lot of these regional properties, they used to be cheap.
400 grand,
they used to be cheap, Mark.
Yeah.
You could sort of throw $300,000 or $400,000 at it, and you'd be able to buy yourself a little hobby farm or a cute little house.
Yeah.
On an acre. These days, they're a fortune. They've gone through the roof. So we're not talking about small amounts of money anymore. Not only that, we haven't even talked about financing the thing. To get rural finance on a lot of these properties, my God, it's hard enough on an investment property in Dee Why, let alone a rural property.
Well, that's right.
So be careful with that, guys.
You could be costing you another 1 or 2% in interest.
Yeah.
It could be costing you an extra 10 or 20% in your deposit. So instead of only needing a 20% deposit, you could need a 30, 40, 50% deposit.
Correct.
If it's like that.
It's very different, guys, financing.
Guys are working towards a hobby farm to enjoy while waiting for a subdivision opportunity.
Is this a good idea?
Maybe waiting a long time. That subdivision opportunity, that's like waiting for the rain. Low maintenance, hobby farm with potential subdivision, good idea. I just think that whole potential subdivision thing, I don't like the word potential. I think it's in God's hands a little bit with councils and stuff like that.
Sure things are always better. Yeah, just be careful. Absolutely. Make sure you're doing your due diligence, guys. I think that's really, really important. Make sure that you're speaking with a broker. Make sure that you're getting really good legal advice, because often when things are in unfamiliar territory, right, this is where we go, I don't know how I got myself into that. I don't know how I didn't think about it. My last parting words are, my dad always told me, stick to your knitting. And I reckon that is the best advice ever. Stick to your knitting. Stick to what you know. That's, I'm always order. Mark's a little bit more chaos, but I'm always the order one. And that's, I've always stuck by that motto.
Giddy up.
That's it. See you guys. Hopefully that's helped everyone.
It helped everyone.
Yeah, I hope so.
It's a chat that's being around the coffee table, around the dinner table, around the restaurant table a lot. And we're two pros in the business, summarising all of these conversations and experience putting together for you tonight live.
That's it. That's a wrap.
Love you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.